Hey everyone, John here. Welcome back to another Sapphire tutorial. In Sapphire 2026, I made a few presets that I think are useful for every host, but are specifically useful for editors. And the one I'd like to break down for you today is Scramble Slide Reveal. So we're going to take a look at this in Avid, so let's jump in. And the first thing I'm going to do is search for the effect. So Sapphire Effect, S_effect, and drop that onto the layer and click on Load Preset. Okay, now in the new category, you'll find Scramble Slide Reveal right here. So I'll double click to load that, and it'll be black because we're at 0. But if I just drag through this is an auto animating effect. And at the very end of the clip, you'll see that shot is fully revealed. So I've actually used Sapphire Effect to create a transition. And let's break this down. And we've got all of the customized host parameters down here, but I'm not going to jump into these. You can take a look at those. What I think will be more useful in this tutorial is if we go straight in and take a look in the builder. So I'll click on Edit to open up the Sapphire Effect Builder. And it does look complicated, doesn't it? But it's not too bad. Let me walk you through it and I'll show you what I mean. So I've got previous selected nodes selected. So if I click on the source, there's my source. And what I've done here, I really wanted to give you the opportunity to take one piece of source footage and treat it in 3 different ways. So just with one layer, okay, rather than having multiple layers, which is a little trickier in an editor. So there's my source. So 01 color is using Sapphire Tritone. And at the moment, mix with source is at 100. You can see the blue check parameters are the ones that are available inside Avid, inside the host. If I bring mix with source down to 0, you can see that's what the tritone effect is creating here. That's the look it's creating. Now, if you didn't want to have black and white, of course, you could load a preset and you could choose one of the presets, or you could, create your own settings for that just by changing color 1 to a different color. I'm going to bring that back to 1, so that's 100%. Now, next to that on the right, we have 02 color. So this is a second treatment. And you can see, once again, tritone. Brown is the color 1 for this one, and a little bit of mix with source. So if I bring that down to 0 again, that's a kind of sepia look. And there's a third color as well. So a third treatment, and this is more of a sort of, teal color and a little bit of mix with source. So 3 different treatments of the footage. Now I'm going to jump ahead and just take a look at these StripSlide nodes here. This whole look was inspired by the Inside Man title sequence, where these sort of strips slide on to reveal the shot. And while I couldn't get it looking exactly like that, I got something close. So StripSlide Master is using Sapphire StripSlide, and StripSlide is a kind of transition effect where the layer slides on in strips. Like that, okay? So StripSlide Master, you can see, is auto-animating because I've clicked this button here and I'm using this option. And you can see at the moment, it's actually animating in reverse. So it's animating from 1 down to 0. So these buttons here allow you to create keyframeless animation. So I'll close that up. And also just notice that some of the parameters are green. These are being used as drivers. So I've clicked Make Driver. And you can see all of these lines going all over the place. So where it's green, it means that's the driver. And where it's red, it means that's being driven. So you can see these ones are being driven. Okay. And you can choose what's being driven from the list of parameters that have been made drivers. So I'll just close that up. In Sapphire 2026, these parameter link lines are new. And if you roll over, you can see it shows you what's driving and what's being driven. You can actually turn that off if you want just by clicking this button here. And I might just turn that off for now. Okay, so that's StripSlide Master. So that's sliding upwards. And there's a second one below that, a second strip slide. And you can see this one is animating from 0 up to 1. Okay? So it's animating forward. And the combination of those gives you this look. So see how when we originally looked at this one, it filled the frame. But by combining the two, and this one is actually negative 90 angle, we actually get a situation where it's sliding and then sliding off by combining those. Okay? So hopefully you're still with me. Now, let's just go back to color 2. So I've used a little bit of defocus on that using Sapphire Rack Defocus and Sapphire Transform to scale that up. So that's Warp Transform. And then I've used that matte with Set Alpha in the front of Sapphire Composite. So that's actually going to sit in the front. Now, color 3 treatment is the blue one. So once again, a bit of defocus, transform, Set Alpha. So I've got some strip slides for this one as well, a combination of the two, and Set Alpha, and that one is in the back. So using Sapphire Composite, it composites them both together. So we get this effect where two layers are being revealed by strips, but those strips are just, they keep going and they just slide straight through the frame like that. Makes it look really interesting. So that's 02 and 03, but the master one, the one that we finish with, is this one. So this is 01. And this one's got strip slide as well as the matte, okay? But this time we're revealing it. We're not actually sliding the strips through. So we're using its default behavior. So strip slide 01 is sliding on, okay? And strip slide 02 is just basically the same, but it's sliding in the opposite direction. So I'm actually combining, and notice this little flicking here. This is actually something that's happening on my machine. No one else seems to be able to make this happen except for my computer. So if you actually do see this as a Sapphire user, please let me know, okay, in the comments. I'd love to hear about your computer specs. You can stop that just by clicking play. So we've got 1 and 2 giving us this look. So that's basically a transition, wiping it on. Now I wanted to break that up a little bit, and I used an animated shape. So this is S animated shape, and I've got the size animating, so up from 0 to 1. So if we just take a look at that and come back to the start and play, you can see that's just wiping on. The size is animating up. And I've scrambled that up a bit using Sapphire Tile Scramble. So that just breaks it up, makes it look a little bit more interesting. And I've made a few parameters available in the host that you can play around with. And combine those, once again, using composite. So the strip slide in the front and the scramble in the back gives us this look. Just like that. So that is piped into the matte port of Set Alpha. And that is in the foreground. Remember, we have this one in the background, and now we have this one in the foreground, and composited together gives us this. So a really interesting look just using one layer on the timeline with Sapphire Effect Builder doing all the heavy lifting. Now, one thing I want to point out here, and this is made available in the host, using Sapphire Layer for this final composite, it's got the option here, and I've renamed this. If I just delete that and undo, you can see that's the swap inputs, but I gave it a custom name, Move 01 to Back. So this is 01. So if you want to have the 01 effect in the front, you can uncheck this. And that puts the 01 effect, that composites the 01 effect in the front. So something to keep an eye out for there. I wanted to give you the option for that. I kind of like it in the back because it makes it look more complex. Like that. Nice, right? Now, notice we have transparency here. Okay. I'm going to go back into the host for a moment. Click OK. Go back into Avid. And we'll just come back and take a look at that again. So there's my effect. And keep in mind that because I've used the auto animation features inside of the builder, the animation will happen over the length of the clip. So if I have a shorter clip, then the animation is going to be faster. But you can tweak the speed of those graphs inside of Sapphire Builder. So now we can see black, right? We've got a layer below here. I've got this sort of, bokeh defocused look of a window and with some rain on it. And I want to have that in the background. Okay. So for my foreground layer, just making sure that my background is set to layer below like that. And now we can have that as an even more interesting shot. So it's quite a complex look, but it's only using 2 layers. Now I would like to treat this background shot a little bit. So I'm actually going to use Sapphire Gradient for that. Make it a little more cohesive. So S Gradient, I'm going to drop that onto that background shot. Now I don't really want it black and white. So let's take a look at this. We've got some on-screen controls here. So I'm going to bring white over to this side. And I'm going to bring black over to this side. And I want to sample some colors from my shot. So for start color, I'll just click on the white. And I'll just choose maybe a green. And for end color, I'll click on the red. Make that red. Now I've got them in the opposite direction. So actually I can just click on swap colors, just like that. And at the moment we're seeing the gradient only. So I'm going to combine that. I'm going to choose multiply. I like that darkness, but it's a little too dark. So I need to adjust the brightness. So I'm going to just increase the brightness. Maybe something like that. And that looks a little bit more like it matches the shot that we have in the foreground. Okay, so there you go. So Sapphire Effect, using multiple Sapphire effects in one look and treating one layer 3 different ways. And a little bit of Sapphire Gradient on the shot below just to bring everything together. So hopefully you found that useful. If you have any questions when you're using this particular preset, please leave a comment or let us know. To learn more about Sapphire and Sapphire Effect Builder, please visit borisfx.com. For now, this is John. See you in the next tutorial.